start with the Texans side of the Diggs move, RC. How have they utilized him in their offense so far?
Well, I mean, if you keep walking around the studio, you're going to have deeper air yards on your attempts than Stefon Diggs.
Throw me the ball.
Goodness, yeah, goodness gracious. I will say this. The thing that's really cool about Stefon Diggs is when you turn on the film, he can still absolutely play football. He's still a #1 talent at the wide receiver position, but the Houston Texans don't need him to be. Nico Collins is clearly the top target on this team, and it allows Stefon Diggs to work and make plays when he has the luxury to make those plays. They're not counting on him. They don't have to throw the football to him deep every snap. You saw them use him in the reverse pass to the quarterback gadget last week. He runs it into the end zone. There were some third down attempts with CJ getting out of the pocket where he found Stefon on some scrambles. And so I love that he's a part of the offense, not the entire offense, not the focal point of the offense, but when he's needed to make a big play, we all know that he can.
It's funny to say this given all of the drama and hoopla around, Diggs and the Bills, but if you're Buffalo and Stefon Diggs has more targets than Nico Collins, that's a good thing. That is what you want to happen. And it's not because Stefon Diggs isn't good. I agree with RC. He's still got it. But Nico Collins will kill you over the middle of the field, as he has all year since the last 2 years. In fact, since the beginning of last season, no quarterback-wide receiver pairing has generated more EPA over the middle of the field than C.J. Stroud throwing to Nico Collins. He will receive the bulk of attention in coverage. The other thing you want to do if you're Buffalo, in terms of dictating to Houston, is get them to run the ball, right? Because the Houston Texans are not the Baltimore Ravens. They will not run all over you. In fact, they're terrible at running the football. So I expect Bobby Babich, the Bills defensive coordinator, to play with a ton of light boxes to try to get the other Bobby, Slowick, to run the football on early downs.
Yeah, he's become Keenan Allen. That's back into career Keenan Allen. He's the work underneath kind of possession guy for their offense.
Interesting. On the Bills side of things here, Dan, the move has left them without a #1 wide receiver. How has that impacted Josh Allen?
Well, I think Josh is now allowing the defense to tell him where to throw the football. They're just calling really good in-rhythm plays rather than focusing on try to get a certain person the football. Now, listen, there's pluses to having elite wide receivers like Stefon Diggs, certainly when he was in his absolute prime. But now Josh is allowing his eyes to tell him where to throw the ball rather than should I try to get Steph going. It's Dalton Kincaid, it's Keon Coleman, it's Khalil Shakir. And so that's why you've seen his decision-making improve. That's why you've seen the turnovers go down. By no way am I saying that it's easier. I'm saying it's a different version. I think also they're trying to figure out in Buffalo how teams are going to play them without Josh and Steph. So now you're trying to call plays that are maybe less dependent on a singular production and more allowing the quarterback to play that point guard role.
Man, see, Dan, this is why I love doing TV with you, bro. You just set me up with the alley. I love that. The point guard role, right? So think about this. When you're playing a team that has no true #1 scorer, right? During the game, it's all this motion and they can pass the ball around and you never know who's going to shoot. And then it gets to the end of the game and they don't know who they want to shoot.
That's fair.
That's what we saw with the Buffalo Bills, right? In the weeks that he's able to distribute the ball and get it out and get it to different receivers, it was very good. Last week, when you needed someone to be able to win against one-on-one coverage, when we knew you were throwing the football, they struggled to create a little separation. And so it's going to be finding the balance between not having a guy, but knowing when you need him.
Yeah, good point.
You're able to do what Baltimore did, which is key in on the Bills' biggest weapon, Josh Allen, right? It's not a receiver that you got to worry about. You're just like, oh, everybody just focus on this guy. The ball's going to this guy. They do have a very good run game, no doubt about that. Texas have a very good run defense. But the Ravens were able to say, okay, everything we're doing now, we got to make sure Josh doesn't kill us with his legs. We got to use simulated pressures to try to dictate to Josh that he holds onto the football. I don't know, that, by the way, if Houston could do those things to the degree that Baltimore did. So it's not easy per se, but it does make things a little bit simpler in that regard because you're able to focus so much on the quarterback.
Yeah, how does Cousins combat those poor numbers against the blitz, especially tonight?
Yeah, it is a stark difference from the quarterback we saw in Minnesota. In fact, in 2023, Laura, Kirk had the lowest off-target percentage of any quarterback in football when he was blitzed. Just 11% of his throws were not on target. This year, that has tripled, and he has the 4th highest of any quarterback in football. And there's a litany of reasons for that. Some of it, I think, is discomfort with pressure. He is not stepping into his throws quite the same way. But some of it, I think, also is they're going a little bit too far downfield. Too many of the times when he is blitzed, he is targeting Drake London downfield, and I think Zach Robinson, especially in this game, has to give him some easier answers. You'd like to see Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts get involved a little bit more when he is blitzed. So I'd like to see an expansion of that plan. You still have to find a way to get to your downfield shots, which is another thing they're struggling with, because after, we had that sort of referendum on them after week 1, why isn't he under center? Well, he's still not under center, and they're still not really running play action, so they have to figure out how to get to that. But the most important job in this game is giving him easier answers against the blitz.
But I think that's the thing, right? We thought he'd have easy answers here. A lot of the conversation we had in the preseason was about the way that they could use Kyle Pitts or use Drake London, guys like Bijan Robinson. I think Kyle Pitts has to be more involved. He did have a catch last week, but it was called back for a penalty. And then there were 2 plays they try to go outside to Kyle Pitts when he's matched up on Marshawn Lattimore. Tell me where the athletic advantage is there. Use him inside. Use him in short crossers. Give him opportunities to be seen by Kirk Cousins in between the numbers with some easy options and some easy throws where he can get run after the catch. It's like they want to split him out and use him as this gadget guy instead of finding ways to get him easy opportunities where his athleticism is much more than the guy that's covering him. And I think if they could start to get into some of that play action in which Mina talks about, and you use him not necessarily as the in-line guy, but if he's the off-the-ball move actual tight end, I believe he has some opportunity to make some plays.
Yeah, it feels like, RC, at some point it's got to happen, right? Other than that, so many opportunities with quarterbacks and coaches. I think for tonight for Atlanta's offense, one, they got to get their outside zone run game going really well. Specifically, it gets away from Vita Vea, who's that interior monster for Tampa Bay's defense. They're really good at it, running that outside zone. It creates consistent, explosive plays for them. And Tampa's defense is fantastic, but it is a little bit of a weakness. Again, I think that's more centric to getting the ball away from Vita. So get that outside zone going. And then to your guys' point with pressure, when you're a play-action-centric offense, sometimes you can think the play action is a cure for all when it comes to pressures. Really good coaches, defensive coaches that understand protections, they'll blitz your play action. RC, you know this as well. So I think Kirk has to have a plan to just play faster with their play action, and specifically when teams pressure. And for me, that's a Ray McLeod, Darnell Mooney answer, making sure, because Kirk has been blitzed and he struggled with it, and mainly it's because of his inability to play faster this year with that play action pass game.
I mean, it's just inability to play fast at all. It's just inability to play fast physically. It's an inability to play fast mentally. It's an inability to get the football out of your hands with a quick release. There were all of these things that I felt like Kirk Cousins was really good at prior to being acquired by the Atlanta Falcons that he's suddenly no longer good at, right? There was an ability to be accurate that I thought was sort of where Kirk could stand above other people. And it wasn't necessarily pushing it down the field. It was giving opportunities for wide receivers to catch the ball and continue to run, for being able to stand in the pocket and deliver into tight windows. And we haven't seen those things thus far this season.
Zach Robinson has to find a way to create run-pass conflict, because right now it doesn't exist. And to Dan's point, there is a chance if you use play action, you're going to get blitzed by Todd Bowles at times, no doubt. But I'm not even talking about just under center play action. You have Bijan Robinson back there. There should be ways to use him both as a pass catcher, running back. Having him in there, he's an excellent blocker. That creates some uncertainty in the minds of this Tampa Bay defense, because it will slow them up, but they haven't figured out how to do so.
Yeah, just give it to Bijan, okay? Let's see our game picks here. Let's see what we're doing. Guys, I actually love these game picks because we're split. Dan and I go on Falcons.
I would have, if Tampa was healthy, I would have taken Tampa, but they're so banged up.
I do think that matters. I don't know. I've been rolling with the Falcons all season. It's worked sometimes and it hasn't worked other times, but I'm an ATL girl. We got to do it.